Madam Speaker, as our rules prohibit, I certainly would not question the motives of any of our esteemed colleagues in this body. But Madam Speaker, I do find myself confused listening to 2 days now of us putting bills up for consideration that don't decimate the Second Amendment, but that create reasonable, common sense, and deeply supported public policy being requested by members of our community. We have one such bill in front of us today. One supported, as was said, by the maker of the bill, by law enforcement, by district attorneys, even by gun manufacturers. So with all of that being true, Madam Speaker, I do find myself confused at some of the comments that have been made. We hear consistently about support of law enforcement, about needing more police on the streets. And yet, we're going to knowingly vote for a piece of legislation or vote against a piece of legislation that would make life more difficult for our law enforcement officers. So I'm trying to understand that cognitive dissonance. We have people who spoke about needing to support the Constitution and spoke about recent precedents such as Bruin. I would quote the rather progressive Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, who recently just said, I don't think any of these cases that have been decided are gospel. Precedent, he went on to say, should be respectful of our legal traditions and of our country and laws and be based on something, not just something somebody dreamt up. And I think it is fair to say that it is dreamt up, that our founders could even conceive of the types of weaponry that is easily accessible to individuals with no training and with ill will in our communities. They couldn't conceive of it. And so the idea that we are hopeless because of the Second Amendment to address even the most egregious examples that have been shared today, I can't understand that, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I hear folks say that, well, criminals don't follow the law, so we shouldn't pass any laws. If that is true, Madam Speaker, we're out of a job. We have no reason to be here. We should not have just passed the multiple pieces of legislation in this session and previous sessions. We create new crimes in this building like some folks change their socks. But not on this issue. That doesn't make sense to me, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I hear people talk about the crime in the city of the first class, and then representatives elected from the city of the first class come here with serious solutions to the challenges facing our communities, and yet we have people who know nothing about the city of the first class who vote against the solutions that we are putting forward. And Madam Speaker, I heard a lot of people talk about sin yesterday. And we don't have a gun problem, we have a sin problem. I agree, we do have a sin problem. It's a sin to knowingly let people die when we could do something to stop it. That's a sin. It's a sin to sit on our hands and act like there's nothing we can do when people are being slaughtered in our streets. That is a sin. And so, listen, I know we have different iterations and translations of the great texts, but the King James Version that I know, that Bible speaks a lot about helping the least of these, speaks a lot about making sure we're helping the poor and infirmed, speaks a lot about using the word of God as a shield, not a sword. So we may attend different services. But the God that I know and the faith that I practice says that we ought to do something about the murder of police officers and individuals in our street, especially when we have the ability to do so. And the great representative from Allegheny County has given us a chance to do so. And I will end with one of the things that's a little bit connected, Madam Speaker, but I will not tarry on this point. I heard a lot of people saying that our founders wanted us to have the Second Amendment in case there's a tyrannical government for whom we need to take up arms. I am not suggesting, as others have, that we should do that, Madam Speaker. In fact, I've constantly supported gun safety and gun reform in this building. But for people who want to pretend that they are no tread on me, don't tread on me, well, I would make you aware there's a guy I know who's treading, and you all never have anything to say about it. So save me your self-righteous speeches about standing up for tyranny when you do nothing to stand up for tyranny consistently and constantly.
Madam Speaker, point of order. On this floor, we will continue to debate issues that are extremely sensitive, controversial, some might say, but we have a responsibility to this institution and to the people we represent to do it with decorum as laid forth by the rules, which says you cannot impugn other members of this chamber. I think we all need to be mindful of the language that we use in these debates, and I would encourage us to understand that we are here as colleagues doing the work of the people. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The chair thanks the gentleman, and the point is well taken, and members are reminded we are here to represent our constituents who gave us the great honor of representing them in this body and speaking on their behalf. But we don't do so with personal insults, and we don't do so by stirring up emotions and yelling at each other across the aisle, and certainly by not approaching any of us with aggression. It is absolutely unacceptable. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I share the sentiments of the minority leader. There should be no cherry picking or making any distinction. It is not acceptable on either side, and we will not make any willingness to abide it by anyone, red, blue, east, west, right, or left. It is wrong. It must stop.